talk about the Z300 series that are the most popular models that we sell here at James Rivers Equipment. So to my right here, we're going to have the Z320M. To my left, the Z330R, and then the Z330M with a bagger. So some of the differences that we have between these two models are maybe not entirely noticeable, but when you get up close on the machine, you'll be able to see big differences. Up front on the M versus the R, you're going to have no lights on the M, but on the R, you'll have forward-facing and side-facing lights, so when you're cutting at dusk and right at close to dark, you can see all those grass things and obstacles, so you avoid them. On the R, you're also going to have a rubber floor mat right down here on the seat. For the operator station, that reduces vibration, makes it a little bit easier to get your footing and grip when you're sitting in the seat. On the M, you'll just have your standard metal floor. On the M, your seat is going to be a nice cut and sewn seat, but you'll notice it does not have the armrest that the R does. So the armrests are going to put you in a little bit more comfortable position. Both models do have adjustable arms, so you can adjust these by moving the bolts on each side for each operator to get the arms closer to the operator or further away from them. We typically set them up in the outward position. The R does have a nice little toolbox here on the fender where the M does not. And then the R is going to be just all of the creature comforts you can imagine, where the M is a more basic machine, more kind of your entry-level equipment. When you come over here to the Z330M and the Z330R, you are in a bigger engine as well. So the 320 is going to have the 42-inch deck and the smaller motor. When you go to the 330, you'll have a 23 horse versus a 21.5 horse machine, and the larger deck options in the 330 of the 48 and the 54-inch deck. So those are pretty much all of the different options that you'll have between these three models. The bagger is available on all three of them, as those will fit. The 42 machine will not have the power flow head that you see on that bagger, but all the other size decks, the 48 and the 54, will come with that power flow head on the bagging system. All right, so now we'll do a walk around of the machine. We're going to do the Z330R here, but it is going to be very similar for all three models. Other than a different engine on the M or the E, most of these features are universal across all three. So one of the upgraded features for the new Z3s is going to be a foot raised deck lift. So right here is the deck adjustment. So before you had a pin system down here, now you've got a dial deck adjustment over here at the top, and I need to drop in the seat to be able to show you. But you push the foot lever down to take the weight off the deck, your deck will raise just a little bit, and then you can dial this to whatever cut height you want. It's going to be close to 1 inch increments and 1/4 inch turns at a time, so you can go to 3.5 and let your foot weight off, and that'll lower the deck down to that height. And then you can adjust it back up, say if you want to go lower, down to 2 inches, or all the way up to 4.5. New to the Z3 is going to be the park brake that's integrated into your handles. So when you're mowing along, before you had a park brake down here, you had to pull up and put down. Now, as soon as you throw the handles out, that engages your park brake. So the machine will come to a natural stop if you throw your arms out. So if something gets hairy, you don't want to put any more input into the machine, just throw those arms out to the side. It sets your park brake and the machine will quit moving. Jump back off here and we'll talk about the front of the machine. So a big improvement is going to be the size of the frame and the casters on the front tires. So the frame went from a pretty thin rail design to a thicker channel, and it goes all the way back, so improving the rigidity and the weight of the machine. So the heavier the machine, the better the ride quality you're going to get. And then they went from plastic bushings top and bottom to a plastic bushing on the top and a sealed bearing on the bottom. So it's going to get you longer life out of these caster assemblies for your front tires. Coming over here and looking at the deck, on the 48-inch deck, you're going to have a forged deck with this reinforced rod on one side and adjustable scalping wheels up front. So as far as the scalping wheels go, when you adjust these, you'll see different notches here and numbers along the side indicating your cut level of height. So for this, you can adjust that to match where you're going to cut on the machine, and you want to have that deck wheel right in the right notch and position for the cut height that you desire. A good rule of thumb is you want to be able to get a finger underneath it without making it roll, but it needs to be low enough to the ground that it'll pick up for those obstacles that you go over and protect the deck and avoid scalping your yard. Moving back here, further on the deck, you will notice easy lift cleanouts for your spindles and your pulleys. And then if you notice these arrows here, that points to where the zert fitting is underneath of the spindle where you grease the spindle assembly. It's just right underneath the pulley in that position there. Coming further back, you'll notice a washout port. The washout ports are there for when you get into a little bit more material or damp material and it's tough to get it out of the deck. So this works kind of like an air chuck. You pull it back and it releases and it pops on. So you want to connect your water hose to this, put the deck down as low as it'll go, engage the deck with the water on, run it for about 60 to 90 seconds or until most of the material's out, and then you want to dry the deck off. So my good rule of thumb with deck cleaning on any machine is air first, water if needed, and then air again. So if you can blow this off with a leaf blower and get most of the material out, that's plenty fine. What you don't want to do is leave grass in a deck for a long period, because grass in a deck will attract moisture to it and cause rusting issues further into the life of your machine. So always make sure your deck's clean. Use the washout port if necessary. I'd probably throw this sucker in the toolbox on the machine so it's not in there out where it can get damaged as you're going along edging and bushings and whatnot. But a great feature, so you're not having to scrape out underneath that deck to be the only way you can get material loose. Further back on the machine, you do have a great cup holder, nice convenient location. A good size fuel neck on the Z3s, easy place to grab into and get your fuel loaded to the machine. One change was that the fuel tank did move on these. So as we raise the seat here, you'll notice the battery's further forward on this machine. The fuel tank used to be up there and the battery used to be back. This puts more weight over the center of the axle, better ride quality, better balance for the machine total. You can take a look at the new dial-in adjustment on your deck height with the seat up. That is kind of where the system went from the pin system before. That mimics what you see in a lot of your commercial machines. All right, so moving forward, you'll see the underside of the seat. And you've got a very convenient service interval chart here that tells you when everything needs to happen under normal conditions. So conditions at your property might change some of those intervals. If you have a really dusty environment, you might want to clean your air filters out a little more often. So that is handy dandy right there on your machine. And also this is where you adjust your seat. So this screw right here is nice and convenient, doesn't need any tools. You unscrew that and then you move the seat forward by going down your notches, and this is the most furthest back position for the seat on this model. So as we move rearward on the machine, we'll come to the engine. So starting on the left side of the engine, first you'll have your fuel filter located right here on your fuel line, and then you'll have your fuel pump located beyond the fuel filter. And then that'll move you rearward. You've got your first spark plug on your first cylinder, which brings us to the back of the engine where your air filter is located under this easy to access tab. And then for here, I always recommend just a little bit of vacuuming, suck out what the heavy debris is before you remove that filter. Keeping your air filter clean is of most importance because that will extend the life of your engine. Dirt ingestion is the #1 cause of small engine failure. As we move to the other side of the machine, you've got your second spark plug and cylinder, followed by your oil maintenance system on the Kawasaki. So this is your oil fill as well as your oil check. So as you pull that out, you'll notice the fill lines on the dipstick, and that's also where you're going to add your oil when changing. Below that, you have your oil filter, and then you have a really convenient feature here in your oil drain. So this hose comes out, you can either bring it forward and down through the machine, or you can bring it back and off to the side and drain your oil without getting it all over the frame of the machine. And just remember, once you're done draining that, tighten that back on so you're not continuing to drain oil, and then put it back in that holder so it's right there on the side of the machine. As we talked about earlier, there is a toolbox on this side. You can put some gloves or a small wrench or something like that in there if you'd like. Let me show you your operator controls from the seat. All right, so sitting in the seat, your armrest does raise up out of the way, makes it a little easier to access putting your key in. Your key switches here, you got stop, lights, run, and start. So to start the machine, you go all the way over and then continue to push to where the start location is. And then run would be once you let go of it after it starts, it'll stay in that position. And if you want lights, you turn it back to the light position. And once you're in the light position, you'll notice your LED lights are on in the front. All right, further up on the controls, we mentioned the cut height here before. Your PTO switch, or your on and off for your blades, is right here. A simple pull up on the PTO turns the blades on, and then if you need to turn them off all of a sudden, say you run over a stick or something unexpected, just pop that down real quick and it turns the machine off from the mowing standpoint. Over here you've got your throttle control. So mowing, you want to be all the way up towards the bunny. Putting around, or if you're getting off the machine for a bit to clean up, you can dial that back to conserve fuel. This is your choke right here. You see the arrow pointing forward to the choke position. You want to push it forward to the choke position when you start the machine, and then as soon as the machine's running and started, you want to pull that back all the way off. You don't want to leave it partially choked because that can cause damage to your carburetor and your engine. So all the way off when running, all the way forward before you start the machine. Coming to this side of the deck, we have the chute and another easy access clean out for the spindle on this side. The chute is very important because that keeps safety in mind when you're mowing. You're going to throw items, you're going to throw sweet gum balls, small twigs, things like that you might run over. Rocks if you get into an area where you start scalping. And this is designed to make it where you're not throwing material very far away from the mower. I know it's tempting to run like this and put the chute up, but that's not really safe when it comes to mower operation. You can, however, raise this up and get a smaller width for loading onto a trailer or putting it into the shed. Overall, on the 48-inch deck, you come to about 52.3 inches in width when you're talking about it with the deflector raised. Obviously, with the deflector down, you're adding about a foot to that dimension. Coming to the front of the machine, your foot platform is easy to remove, doesn't even require tools. You just simply lift it up and out, and that gives you easy access to clean the pulleys and the underside of the deck of the machine. Going back on, you just simply rest it right there, put each tab in the hole on each side, and then lower the platform back down and it'll come to rest in the channels where it's supposed to be. One other quick thing to mention for a walk-around is if your machine starts to mow and it's pulling to the right or the left on level ground, you may have a tracking issue. We set them up where they're running pretty true in the middle, but your tracking bolts are on either side of the deck for adjustment. Consult your manual on which side to adjust if it's doing that. Inside of your toolbox, there is a handy wrench that can adjust that as well as most of the fasteners on your machine with this one handy little tool. Now that we've been through the Z3 walk-around and you've seen all the common service points and features, let's focus in on the bagger for a little bit. So this is the same bagger whether you have the M, the R, the 42-inch deck, or the 48 or 54-inch deck. The only difference is on a 42-inch deck you'll have the bagging, the MCS system and the chute, but on the 42-inch you won't have the power flow head. So what the power flow head does is on the larger decks it provides suction to pull out the grass, the leaves, all the material that you're trying to bag. So on your 48 and 54-inch decks you'll have a power flow head here off to the side. I'll show real quick how to take that off. First thing you're going to do is remove your chute. So pull that off and then out to take the chute off. This has a nice little port on it that'll close. So once you pull that off, you can pull the top out just like that and lay that off to the side. So once you have your chute out, you're going to pull back on this lever and let it go forward. That's going to release the tension on the pulley. Then pull this cover forward and get down here and take the belt loose from the top pulley. and then pull out on your power flow, which will swing out to the side like this, and then you can pick the whole unit up off the machine. And installation is just the reverse of removal. So to wrap up the Z300 series by John Deere, you have the Z320M, the Z330R, and deck sizes available from 42, 48, and 54 inches. You also have engines from Kawasaki available in a 21.5 horse and a 23 horsepower engine. You have a factory warranty for 3 years and 200 hours that is extendable through a PowerGuard warranty extension all the way up to 72 months and 500 hours. Just come by your local James River and get in the seat. You won't regret it.